Howdy folks, it's finally that time that I'm going to show you how I make my light features. First things first, you're going to need a piece of wood. Second thing second, you're going to need to router out that piece of wood, however you may choose, 1/4 of an inch, and it needs to be sunk 1/2 inch to 3/4. 1/2 inch to 3/4 will determine how much illumination you get from your light feature. What you'll be needing is some high strength adhesive. I choose clear Gorilla Glue. 1, because the clear is less messy though. 2, it is a silicone base and it does not delaminate from heat. So these lights do get semi-warm, nothing dangerous, but you gotta keep that in consideration when it's hanging upside down and you don't want your lights falling out. After you unpackage your light, you're gonna have this big, clunky piece of junk. You can keep this if you want. It's really a personal preference. I like to take it out because it's big, clunky, and it won't give you a good flush finish. Now, unless you make a light feature that is exactly 16.4 feet long, you're gonna have to cut this stuff. You'll see these lines right here, and that is where you are able to cut. I always cut the backside off so I don't have to reconnect the wires. I'm gonna take my Gorilla Glue, and I am going to glue in the light into the channel. Super complicated stuff here, folks. Now we're gonna let this set, wait for it to dry. Just make sure that it's all pretty straight in the channel. If you cut your channel 1/4 inch, it's gonna be pretty tight in there, so you should be good to go. I wanted to give you that example of the smaller channel so I could show you how I can cut these lights, resolder them, and use them for later batches. This piece was cut off from the toe kick light in the van behind me. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is cut all this back and resolder it, and then I will have a little accent light. We're gonna have a little bit of a warm white with a gold accent, and this is gonna go above the kitchen. Okay, for those of you who do not know how to solder, you could skip through this part. If you've never soldered before, I don't recommend you doing this before you practice, at least on like an easier application, because it's a pretty small area with the solder. So fast forward or stay tuned and have me teach you. What do I know? So I have 3 different lights I'm doing this for. So I'm gonna just show you the first one, and then we're gonna go into a good old time lapse. You're gonna need a good old fashioned soldering kit. This is flux, and then I have my solder here. I use masking tape and some gel-based super glue. So we're going to cut the silicone down the middle. And make sure that you're cutting the top of the light off. So this is the bottom, this is the top. So you're gonna cut the top off. We have exposed terminals in this wire. If you order these strips from our website, you'll see that the positive is at the front where the light is, and the negative is at the back side. We lay this flat, we tape it down. The wire, this is just 18 gauge. Take a little bit of flux. Just get a little bit on there. See those 2? That's about all you need cut back. And you're gonna plop it on there. And you're gonna tape it down so you can't accidentally bump it or move it while the soldering is happening. Now I'm gonna just take my good old solder. Oh yeah, we're up to temp. And if you have long hair, you might wanna tie it back right now. There we go. So negative is on, positive is on. After I solder this, I kind of like wiggle it a little bit just to make sure that I have a solid connection. Looks like I do. And then I take my good old Gorilla Glue and I just gel it over the terminals. And this just makes it so the paper doesn't rip. So these light strips are actually made with like paper on the inside almost. So they're very easy to tear. So if you rely on the paper, it'll probably rip. And if it's glued into a piece of wood like this, it's gonna be a big pain in the butt to go back and fix. This is also a really great application for a hot glue gun. So if you have a hot glue gun, you can do the same thing. It'll dry a lot faster, but I don't have a hot glue gun. I'm gonna let this set and dry, and then we will be able to install it. But in the meantime, I gotta do this 2 additional times. So here comes the time lapse. Okay, so that's how you glue all this lighting in. Very simple. Now I'm gonna wire these in parallel, which black to black, red to red. I already have the light drops set in the van, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug those in. I'm gonna be patient, I'm gonna let all this dry. And I know some people are gonna be like, oh, but what about this gap right here? So I could go ahead later, I get a little small piece of quarter bamboo and just kind of cap this right here, so then you won't see the different ends of the light. But for the most part, it's gonna be pretty sweet. We're gonna mount these hockey sticks here in a minute, and just like that, you got some cool light for those lonely nights. Order them on our website, www.sandyvans.com.